Shai Mundell, the product architect with Next Insurance. Shai will now join me on stage.
Hi
Thank you.
everyone, nice to see everyone. And we'll kick it off right away. We're going to talk about monsters. And as I define monsters, these are huge projects, more than 6 months. And we'll talk about the traps that get us when we go through such projects, especially when we work in agile environment. And to kick us off, there is a QR code here. You can scan it on your phone. This is a very short survey, just to see like how many of you in the last 5 years was part of such a project. So if you can scan this and answer, this is a one question survey. And let's see the responses as they come. Okay, I hope there is no issue. If there are any issue with like scanning the QR code or anything, please write in the chat and we'll see what we can do. I'll bring up the QR code again. Okay, we'll give it another minute. In the meantime, I can talk a little bit about myself and explain like, how did I get to this. So in this company, which I'll talk about in a minute, and previous companies, I worked at Microsoft, where we had a 0 to 1 launch of a huge project, a year and a half that we worked on. And when we were about to launch, or when I knew that we will launch, we knew that we can't get it, to fail on the first release. We must have feedback earlier, but this is a big project. This was a full product, part of Visual Studio team system to enable software developers or software groups to create their own lab environment. And it was a huge development effort, but we wanted to get feedback earlier. So we had to get this feedback, and I'll talk about it later on. And another company was Sears, the retailer, and I was part of the creation of the online social commerce website. And over there as well, we wanted to move very fast, but some of the projects were really big, and we had to understand how we do it, and always with a lot of pressure for the management to move faster. But still, some projects are big and require a lot of effort and cannot be broken into smaller. And I see, yeah, we have 12 responses, and everyone said yes, they were part of it. So I'm good that it's interesting for you and it's relevant. I think in any company you see it. Like, I mean, only if it's a very, very early stage companies, and projects can be small and short, and but in other companies there are many cases that you need to stop and do some refactoring, change some architecture, and these kind of projects that take a lot. And so my current company, I'm working with Next Insurance. We are doing insurance for small businesses. So you can think about like your plumber or personal trainer or your accountant. All of them are small businesses. They need insurance, general liability, workers' compensation, and we provide it online, digital. So the project that I was part of, or I led as a product manager, was a project that changed some basic assumptions that we had. Because when we started the company, we really thought, each one of these work on his own. Maybe he has one location, an office or a restaurant or something like that. But as we want to go up market and serve a little bigger businesses, we see that they have multiple locations. And just making this change made us change a lot of the assumptions we have in the system. So we knew that we should, for example, analyze the risk of a location. Now we need to do it for multiple locations. So we need to collect the information. We need to be able to find the risk in many different data sources that we are connected to, and maybe ask some question about each location. Then we need to rate and calculate the premium for each location, combine it together, create documents that specify all the locations. So this made a lot of changes in many kind of internal parts of the system. So this was a very big project. And when we started, we actually analyzed this and said, well, this is probably, we have infrastructure we need to build, which will take about a year, and then there will be a year to use this infrastructure. And we just said, okay, so we will not start it this year. We'll start with the infrastructure. This will go in parallel because we already was underway to change some of the infrastructure that we did. And we said, we'll wait for a year. We were able to release something smaller that serves some part of our customers, but then a year later we started doing the real project, which was also planned to take a year, and I'll talk about kind of some of the traps that we were there. The picture is kind of me. I really like cookies, so I'm kind of a cookie monster, and I was programming since I was a kid, so I'm a developer at heart. I was engineering manager, and then in some cases, in the last year, I moved to a role of a product architect, which is basically product manager for these kind of very highly technical, very large projects. So let's talk about the traps. And the first trap is the vanishing roadmap. Whenever you go in such a big project, you have a challenge that this project should be part of the strategy of the company. And you need to convince that this is part of it. You need to align your goals so they will be aligned with the goals of the company. But then in many cases, the strategy of the company or the major direction may change. And then your project can get deprioritized. I assume all of you were part of these kind of big changes in the industry. In the recent years, we saw many of these, from the pandemic through the zero interest to the non-zero interest, and the need to move to profitability. So these are many kind of changes that happen outside of your control that you need to make sure that you navigate it so you can continue to work on this project. And the solution for this is, first of all, is getting conviction. And by conviction, I mean you need to prove that this is a project that is worthwhile, so it's aligned with the strategy of the company. You know that there is a lot of investment, so you should show that there is a lot of return, so the ROI will be positive. So you have to get the data, you have to get the information, you have to get the maybe the visual things and the customer testimonies and everything you can to back up your project and say, yes, I'm convinced, and you should be convinced as well, and this should go to your manager, but probably all the way maybe to the CEO for such a big project, that they should be convinced and very clear that, yes, this is a major project that we must do, and and it's important for the company, for the strategy of the company, for the future success of the company, and so on. So you need to do it in the beginning. I wrote 3 times conviction because you need to do it in the beginning for yourself to understand that, yes, I'm working on the right thing. Then you need to convince before starting the project, but then you should also create the conviction all the time, repeat it and repeat it. Like every month, we had a meeting with the management, both to talk about the progress, but we always started with the motivation. Why we are doing this? Why is this important? Why is it still important? Even if the roadmap changed a bit or the strategy changed a bit. So everybody will be aligned and the project will be able to continue. And still, you need to evolve. So it might not be the same exact project you started, or maybe it might not be the same goal. So it might be the same project, but then you align the goal. So if the goal in the beginning was growth, because there is zero interest in the market and all we need to do is grow, and then you move into profitability kind of mindset, then you need to show, okay, this project will also contribute to our profitability. In my case, for example, bigger businesses means you pay the same acquisition cost, but you get higher lifetime value. So the ROI is even bigger than just growing, because when you grow, maybe you invest more in acquiring the customer, getting the information, but you get maybe just one more customer. So in this case, when we talked about growth, we talked about not about the number of customers, but we talked about the revenue. And when we shifted to profitability, we talked about the profit from each customer. So the project continues. The OKRs should be aligned in some cases to the strategy, and maybe sometimes also the project itself should be aligned or adjusted a bit and evolving. So that's the first step. Make sure you are always aligned with strategy and with the OKRs of the company or the goals of the company. For the second web, we are going to talk about complexity, and this is about when we are handling with such projects, there is always things that you start and you think it's easy, even if you did a very detailed design in the beginning, and we invested maybe 3 months ahead of the project to talk with engineering to make sure that they understand the requirements and to start doing the design, but still they found some issues. If you can answer this, again, scan this, answer the one question survey. So I wonder if there is anyone who never had any surprises by engineering when you started, changing things. So I'll give you another minute to collect the answers. So yeah, the options are either in all the features or in some features or never. So I see most of you, go with the middle and say in some features. So you probably have good engineering. In some features they don't say they found a new complexity, but I think about these large projects, right? The 6 months plus projects. Yeah. So we have some responses. When I did this online, I asked to the raise of hands. Nobody said never, right? It's always that they find new things, and it kind of makes sense. Usually systems are complex, bigger projects open all these Pandora boxes, and you want to make sure that you understand this complexity and you deal with it. So the challenge is that every time you open something, you find some more complexities, more issues. It's like when you take your car for an oil change, they always find something else that is broken, needs fixing, and so on. I think it's the same whenever you do a large engineering project, and in complex systems, you always find more things, and they are tangled and connected together. And in many cases, there are unexpected complexities, again, even if you did all the planning. And the solution is also not simple, but you need to iterate. So you want to have these cycles. You still want to work in an agile manner. You want these 2-week sprints. You need also, so the developers can find things and raise the flags early, and then you can find solutions, and you can discuss, and you can understand what can be the solution, and should we fix it or not, and how deeply. So that's one. The second is to create milestones. So we had a monthly milestone where we do a demo, and even if in the beginning we didn't have a visual demo, we said, okay, let's do integration tests, but let's see that we can integrate early and often as much as possible. So we see that the backend pieces connect together, the front end connects together, and if there are issues, we can define them as let's solve the issue by the next milestone or by the end of the next sprint, and let's demo it the next time. And this way you don't have the risk of getting all these complexities either pushed to the end or pushing the deadline day by day in another day, meaning you are always extending the project and you don't even know how much. By iterating, by raising these flags, and by adjusting the plan accordingly, you can find ways to understand, are we on track? If not, how do we fix it? And how do we solve the problem? In some cases, you can solve the problem deeply. In some cases, you can say, okay, maybe it's not such an interesting problem. We'll get to it in a minute. So that's about scope creep is very well known. There are always things that are coming behind the corner, new monsters that come up. In many cases, are stakeholders that are adding let's just add this one more thing. Sales says we saw this customer, maybe we should solve this as well, and so on. And you must fight this very hard. So first of all, you have to to prioritize all the time and ruthlessly. If it's not a real must, you should not take it, and you should focus on the time to feedback. So whatever you want to do, it's still kind of an MVP. Even though it's a big project, you need to focus on the core value, and you should always look at this and say, okay, what did we really want to deliver? do we deliver this core value? How can we get feedback that this is really what customers want? And you want to get it out to the market so you'll be able to see it. So if I go back to my example for Microsoft, it was a huge project. It wasn't ready to release, but we had what Microsoft called our MVP. So these are consultants that work with customers. In many cases, they have their own lab at home. They can test the products. So we could give them an alpha version. First of all, we could interview them. We can talk with them. We can show them even the mock-ups and tell them, is this a real problem? Is this something you're facing with your customers? Is this something that is worthwhile solving? Then when we have the alpha versions, they can install it. And in the beta versions, we can already fix some of the input or the feedback they gave us on the alpha version and give them a beta version. And this is even before it hit any specific customer. At next, in this project of the multi-location, we had many questions about, will the UX be too complex for the users? So what we did, again, we focused on time to feedback. We released the mock-ups, the prototypes, and we did a user testing session with several customers or potential customers, and we showed them, and they were able to walk through and talk about what they're doing. And we used usertesting.com to let them walk through the UX and give us the feedback. And we listened and we adjusted. And if we had like multiple options that we said maybe we can do it this way or the other, these user research sessions helped us focus on the right solution that works for the customer even before we release the product, even before we develop the product. But so this is how you get the early feedback. But still, in many cases, you get the requirements. Maybe you get it from the feedback, you get it from the stakeholders. You need to make sure that you bucket the requirements appropriately. What's must-have, you should do, of course. But in many cases, you can say, okay, this is a quick follow. It's not part of the core value. It's kind of another small feature that we can add. Let's create another milestone or set of milestones of quick follow-up, and we'll put it there. We'll open the ticket, we'll define whatever, but we'll not develop this. This will not change our initial timeline. Some features, as always, are nice to have. Cut them. Okay, you don't have the time in such a big project to do it. You can get to it later. Again, you can track it, but you don't need to do it. And in some cases, you can just say, this is a requirement, but this is not related to us. It's maybe because we opened so many things, because we touched so many areas, there are always more things to fix in the system. But if it's not part of your core value of this project, just say this is for another project, maybe talk to another team, track it, whatever, but don't take it on this project, because large projects always have this scope creep and increase the scope. You should make sure that you don't take anything that is not a must. Moving on to the fourth trap, this is the infrastructure bottlenecks. In many cases, you are dependent on a core team, infrastructure team, a platform, whatever you call it, but you have dependency on infrastructure changes. Some of them are not within your team or within your squad. And you need to make sure that they are aligned with your timeline so you'll be able to release on time. And we had such a dependency, of course, this one-year project that I talked about that we waited for, and we didn't start before it was supposed to end. Of course, it didn't end on time, so it was supposed to end at the end of the year. And then they said, okay, it will take us another quarter. So we said, okay, so let's define a milestone. End of Q1, we should meet, we should see that it all connects. We talked already about the interfaces and everything, but it should be ready by end of Q1. And we were 2 weeks before the end of Q1. They came back and they said, okay, it will take us probably another 2 months. And we couldn't continue without it. So all the way, like all this Q1, we developed all the things we can without the dependency, but now we had to integrate with the dependency. And what we did is we collaborated well with them, we talked with them, we understood what are the gaps, and we contributed people. We assisted them with people from our team. So we trained them on the area, we provided them, they were like taking tasks from this infrastructure team, working with them together to expedite the timeline. So instead of 2 months delay, it was 1 month delay. And because the collaboration was good, we also said, because we contributed, you'll contribute back to us, people, for a while, so we will be able to catch up on the missed time, because we left some of the people, or we gave some of the people to do something else than what they planned. So we boosted the other team, and then the other team boosted us. So this is, I think, how you should handle the infrastructure bottleneck. It's very important to have the milestones, to define the dependencies very clearly, with dates, with deliveries, with defined tests. So how will we make sure that it works for us, and doing what we expect the infrastructure to do, and then collaborate with them all along the time, see that they are in the same direction, that they go into the same things. Usually infrastructure teams tend to kind of, get their own kind of agenda and move a little bit away. Make sure that you integrate again. Use the same milestones and see that things get connected. And if they are behind, assist them, so you'll be able to meet your schedule. The last step, we call it the slow poison. This is like, things that you don't expect and you don't think about it, but people, when they work on a long-term project, usually their motivation goes down. Okay, it's the same thing over and over again for many months. How do we keep this energy up and make sure that people stay with you and they are still focused and energized? And I think that there are a few ways to solve this. One is you continue to reiterate the goal, the motivation, the impact that we are making with this project. Why is it important? How is it aligned to the strategy of the company? How is it serving the goals of the company? If we had an early launch that served some part of our customers, so we looked closely on this, and we shared with the team the success that we saw there, and said, the way we see the success over there, what we develop here for a bigger population of our customers, this will be even bigger success. So this keeps the team motivated. We celebrated the milestones, and we highlighted these successes. In each milestone, there was, a meeting together. We called in the management, so people will understand, yes, it is in the focus of the company. Here is a proof. The CEO came and looked at the demo, and he was excited, and he also talked and said, how important it is for our customers, for our long-term goals of the company. So we made sure that every time there is someone that is, not part of the project, that is coming in and saying some good words and why is this important. It was the CEO, it was the VP of engineering, the VP of product, and so on. And you should say, okay, why is this important for you as an individual to be part of such a big project? This is a good way to learn how to run this project, to see how we're progressing in this. What are the things we're doing, because this will be important for your career and for your growth. And part of it is, people say, okay, I understood it. I was part of it for maybe a few months. Now I want to move forward. That's fine. It is okay to replace people, even though there is a cost of, training new people that come and replace others. But when a new person comes to such a team, it also gets into the team kind of new energy, new blood, maybe some new way of thinking of how we do stuff. Maybe you can find also ways to improve the way we do things and shorten some of the tasks. So don't be afraid of changing these people along the time. We did it. We replaced our engineer left our architect, technical architect, left the company, and we got another one from the company instead, and he brought his new energy and a new way of looking at things, which was important and energized for the team. And some of the developers were rotating, and it also brought a lot of good energy. So don't be afraid of it. So if I want to summarize, if you feel like it's a roller coaster and you're riding the monster, you should actually be able to kind of control it. So one is to get conviction, to make sure that everyone is aligned with you and you can convince that this is the right project to do and it's important that you're doing this. Use the milestones and the iterations so you can control the timeline and make sure you're on time. And if not, you can raise the flags early and align and get maybe more people to help, or maybe reduce scope if you can even more. And whatever you do, focus on the time to feedback. Think about how do we release the best and most elaborated product, but more about how do we get the feedback from the customers as early as possible, so we know that we're in the right direction. It's not like we started and then a year later we released and actually it didn't hit the mark with the customers. And if there is only one thing you should remember from this presentation, is how do you digest big monsters, and that's in small bites, small iterations, milestones. Get it going and keep on moving. That's how I think this kind of projects should go. You can follow me, read some stuff, or connect on LinkedIn. And if you want, you can write some comments and or questions in the comment section, and I can answer them. We still have another 3 or 4 minutes. So there is a question about how to plan for unexpected contingencies in the project. So yes, you can take buffers. I think this is kind of the common solution, is to take some spare time. And there is also a question always, do you expose it to the team or not? What we try to do is not to push all the buffers to the end, but rather make sure that in every sprint and every milestone, we plan and we leave some room for changes, and we adjust the plan as we go. So from milestone to milestone, we redefine the goals if needed. And this is how we adjusted for it. We didn't take huge buffers of a few months in advance. And we communicated this as well. We said there are no buffers. If something major will happen, we'll need to change the timeline a bit. There's a question, did we consider insufficient testing, post-release issues? So I think this is part of the culture here that it's not considered done if there are no testing. So this was always part of the plan, and even in the milestones, you had to come with proven tests and make sure that they are working. So we didn't compromise on quality. We didn't say and we had multiple bug safaris at the end, multiple iterations with the engineers and product managers and insurance team to test it. So we did allocate time for testing, which is, for us, it's not a buffer. It's part of the basics of what you need in order to release. If the slides will be available, I think, yes, they should be sent to you by email, but if not, you can drop me a note on LinkedIn and I can send it over. Okay, thank you very much. If there are no more questions, thank you for joining and for participating in the call. See you later.